So while this is a human issue, it is an issue of a person learning to live authentically and safely in the world. It is not a simple issue. And I think we need to give ourselves license to understand and agree that it is intensely complicated. And that's okay. We don't have to have all the answers, but sitting there in your classroom, you might be thinking, I know which bathroom to go into. I don't have any questions around my identity. But how do we engage in the world? How do we lovingly engage with people who are different to us and navigate this new and changing landscape in a way that is honoring? And I think we need to begin with how we view the world before we start thinking about how we engage with the world. Now, worldviews change all the time. They change from generation to generation, and they change from culture to culture. One generation ago, it would have been unthinkable for someone to say, I am a man trapped in a woman's body. You just wouldn't hear it. But right now, in the culture we're living in, this is just another person questioning their gender identity. It's something that you would definitely hear very often on social media platforms. But what is the foundation of these changes, these shifts in worldviews? So our worldviews do not exist in a vacuum. They are shaped by where we grow up. They're shaped by our culture, our religion, you growing up in a unique family, in a unique community. You have a personality, you have experiences. All of these are shaping the way you view the world, and they are going to shape how you view gender. And I think it's important to know that, because not everybody is going to have the same worldview as you. But what I also wanted to say is that you're entitled to your worldview. As long as we are honoring of all people, we are allowed to own the way we view the world. And with gender, there are two primary ways to view the human body and the human experience. They are very, very different from one another, and they form the heart and the core of the gender debate. So as its name implies, the dualistic worldview is a view where being a person is divided into two parts. It is based on something called personhood theory. And personhood theory in turn is based on a view of humanity called postmodern body-person divide. Quite a mouthful, but basically what it means is that the body, the physical body, the biological body, is separate to the person. The person resides within us, in our will, in our emotions, and in our thoughts. In her book, Love Thy Body, Nancy Pearcey explains it like this. To be biologically human is a scientific fact, our bodies. To be a person is an ethical concept, defined by what we value, what we think. A person has a moral and a legal standing, but a body is an expendable biological organism. And in this view, places little emphasis on the body in defining our gender or who we are as people. Basically, this is defined in our mind and in our consciousness. Rene Descartes was famous for saying, I think, therefore I am. And the idea that our feelings and our thoughts are what define us as people. It almost sets the body and the emotions apart as two things that are together but separate from one another. And in this view, our true authentic self is found within us. And sometimes our bodies can be out of alignment with that authentic self. And if we do feel incongruency between our internal self and our bodies, we should then maybe think about making changes to our body and to our external being to align with who we feel we really are. And the separation of body and person is at the heart of the transgender movement. This idea and this view that the real person resides in our will and our emotions, and therefore the meaning of our gender is not something we derive from our bodies, but something that we impose on our bodies. And gender identity is seen as a social construct rather than something innate. And popular culture holds this currently as the most ethical, compassionate, and inclusive view of the human body. Some say it's the only plausible view. But there is a second worldview. There's a second worldview that's held by many people across the world and has been held for many generations. And this is one that is called the integrated worldview. This alternative view is based on something called teleology or design framework. And this is the idea that controversial podcaster and social commentator Ben Shapiro often talks about. The way he puts it, you can't magically change your gender, you can't magically change your sex, you can't magically change your age. It is who you are. According to this view, something, in this case the human body, is designed for a purpose. And it is designed in such a way to meet that purpose. So in this view, the human body and the person are one thing. They are of equal importance and they are deeply intertwined together. And this includes the physical traits of our bodies as men and women, sexually compatible to one another, and our biological makeup as male and female. In this worldview, our bodies are as important as our thoughts and our feelings, and as much part of our true selves as our will and our emotions. And sometimes in this worldview, our feelings and our emotions and our thoughts can be out of alignment with who we are physically. And in that case, often how we feel is out of alignment because of experiences we've had, misunderstanding of developmental stages and things like that. In this view, humans thrive most when they live in an alignment between the body and the mind and the emotions. Now, there are strong opinions on both sides, and there's strong evidence for both of these worldviews. They are very different, but both very valid ways of seeing the world. I want you to take some time now as a class to think about this. Think about what has shaped your worldview. Think about your family, your culture, your religion. What has brought you to this way of seeing the world? And do you hold a dualistic or an integrated worldview? And then the third thing I want you to discuss is, what do you think is the dominant worldview in your classroom, and how is it shaping how you, as a peer group, view gender?